up, everyone? Good morning. Well, it's morning here. I don't know about y'all. We're just headed out to get some, maybe a quick bite for breakfast and some coffee. But I wanted to talk about a couple things. We'll call this topic pre-takeoff checklist. What do you check before you take off? Just a quick run around. You get your bike out. You probably go for the ride, and you want to run. You want to run a couple. You want to check on a couple things before you take off, and that's what: brakes, chain, tires, lights, and for those of us that don't have fuel gauges, your mileage. You pull it out. Make sure you check those tires. Make sure you got enough tread on them to go for that ride. Make sure your pressure's good. Depending on what kind of bike you have and how you ride, your riding style, right? Your pressures are going to be different. I pressure run 38 in the rear, 36 in the front. That's just what I'm comfortable with. That's what I've been riding with. No huge rhyme or reason for that specific PSI, but I think it's more so that's what I had when I first started riding, and that's just what I've always been comfortable with. So it just depends on how you ride, but check your tire pressure, make sure it's good, make sure you're not leaking, and especially if your bike's been sitting for a while, make sure you have no tread on there. Help you ride safely. Also, check the wear on your tires. Sometimes when we install our tires, or you get your tires installed, regardless, they could be offset a little bit, and so your tire could be riding a little weird, right? So check the wear on it. Make sure the wear marks are down the middle, not out to the side, or you're getting random wear marks on the sides. That could be an indication that your tire is misaligned. Next thing is your chain. Make sure your chain's good. Make sure it's there's no rust on it. Make sure there's no kinks in it. That's why it's important to keep up with that chain maintenance. A lot of times, a lot of people just wash their bikes and hey, call it good. Negative. Make sure that chain is good. Make sure it's lubricated. Make sure when you wash your bike, you use some degreaser on that chain to get all the gunk off of it, and then you use a good whatever lube that you use. There's a bunch of lubes out there, so we're not going to get into that because that's a whole different conversation. But make sure that it's well lubricated so that it's good to go, so those O-rings stay good for a long time. Check for kinks. Make sure that your chain is sufficiently tightened. It's tightened, not overly loose, right? An over-tightened chain can snap on you. A rusted chain can snap on you. A loose chain it can mess up your sprockets, right? You're gonna miss gears. You're out there, you're gonna allow it to take off, and you're not gonna go anywhere, right? On the same note, your chain snaps, you're not going anywhere, and it could be that it snaps and takes out your leg. Right? Not only takes out your leg, but maybe it makes you wreck. So always, always, always make sure that your chain is well taken care of. Brakes. Make sure your brakes are good. Make sure your rear brakes and your front brakes are both good to go. And make sure that the pressures are good. You know what the correct pressure is just from you riding your bike. It's your bike. You've been riding it for a while. You know that pressure. On the same note, if you gotta squeeze your front brake all the way in to be able to brake, you might want to check them. If you gotta press your rear brake all the way down, you may want to check that also. You shouldn't have to do that. Either you need to bleed your brakes to get some air out of there, or your brakes, are wearing down and you need some new ones. One thing I would recommend is steel braided lines. Steel braided lines made a whole difference when I installed them. I installed them on my bike and on Jenna's bike back there. So steel braided lines make a huge difference. And the rubber that you have on your bike now expands and contracts, right? Well, the steel braided lines don't expand like the rubber does. So the pressure that you apply is there consistently. So if you hear any squeaking, right, that could be a number of things. Your brakes are dirty, right? Maybe it's super cold outside, or maybe your brakes are wearing down and you need new ones. So always check your brakes, both forward and rear brakes, to make sure that you're good on that front.
Hey girl, where you get that sweater from?
Next thing I want to talk about is your lights and your turn signals. Make sure you're checking those. Make sure you're checking your headlights, your high beam, your rear running light, your brake light. All right, depending on what kind of brake light you have stock, then it just turns, it's red, and then it brightens up when you apply the brakes. If you have a aftermarket one, I use TNT Industries. By the way, great company. Love them. Customer service is awesome. I use TNT Industries, and I can adjust it whether it blinks a couple times before it turns solid red, or it just turns solid red.
Ooh, that's good.
What?
Calzones, Bodacious Pizza with calzone. Pale Horse Coffee. Came out to get some coffee. Pale Horse, what is that? Cinnamon sticky bun, English toffee. What else I got? Maple bourbon, toasted coconut. Our caffeination on.
Now see my shirt. Back the fuck up. Social distancing. Yeah, it's so bad. And still like 5 years ago when we were with Lane and he was like, ram mount this, ram mount that.
I
But now I'm all about Freddie Quad Lock.
I forgot that was on.
Freddie rods. I wonder how many ram parts Lane's got stocked up.
Probably a lot.
Nobody's buying it anymore. They all want Quad Lock.
Man, look, my ram mount is good.
All right, so we left off on your brake light and tail light. Make sure your turn signals are good too. I know a lot of us like running those integrated tail lights. I do. However, a lot of them, especially during the day, it's hard to see the turn signals. Especially during the day, the turn signals are like in the integrated, they're really light. So you may not get seen as far as, hey, I'm trying to merge or whatnot, right? So what I ended up doing was I ended up installing LED strips on my rear pegs. Not the peg itself, but the bar that comes down. I ended up installing LED strips on there. So it's about, I think it's 6 inches left and right. Yeah, turn signals, make sure they work, checking left and right, both forward and back. And I think the last thing, maybe I'm missing something, but for the sake of this, the last thing is going to be your gas. Most of us don't have gas gauges, so we go off the mileage, right? The mileage counter, how many miles we have, and depending on how you ride and what you do, it's going to determine how many miles you're going to get to that tank. So keep that in mind. That's why you want to pay attention to how many miles you have. So in that case, I didn't check the night before, so when I got up to go to work in the morning, surprise, surprise, didn't have enough miles. Well, I did have enough, but the light turned on right away. So always make sure that you're good to go. Always keep that in mind, especially for these longer rides. If you're going off for a ride and, you know, there may not be a gas station where you're going, so pay attention to your mileage counter if you don't have that gas gauge. I wanted to talk about lane riding, right? What position do you ride in? I prefer, for the most part, on the left side, right? You're gonna, at least that's just my preference.
Huh?
But depending on what kind of, how many lanes there are and what road you're on, is gonna kind of determine which position you want to be in. Me personally, I never ride in the middle. Right, that's most of your oil, especially after rain. That's gonna be very slick. I don't ride on the right side because, especially when you're coming around corners like this, that's just 1 second longer that the car has to see you. Right, they may not see you by riding in that position. So on the left side, those cars that are coming out of the crossing section have, you know, a split second. They see you a split second sooner, and hey, that split second may be all you need. All right. However, I will say, I wanted to touch on this since we're right here. This is kind of a good example. You see this left lane here, these left turners. There's another left lane up there turning left on their side. I would ride on that side of the lane. That way, because if there's cars on my side that are coming this way turning left, if I'm riding on that side, those cars, the oncoming traffic has a little bit longer to see me before they turn left. So, and I always kind of let off the throttle just enough to where I have enough time to react. So like I let off the throttle, and if I have to pull the clutch in and slam the brakes, then I have that, you know, split second to do that. See me, it's for me, it's mostly about giving drivers a split second to see me sooner than later. And that's just my preference. That's what I feel comfortable with. But I never ride in the middle. Now, if you do, that's you, and if you have a reason why, then go ahead and comment below. It's just on how you ride and what makes you comfortable. And that's another thing too, is always ride the way that makes you comfortable, and never riding above your comfort level. So that's always important. Folks home?
I was hungry and they said hungry, hungry hippo.
Aww. What up, doggo? Not sure what she's doing. Ah, shit. What up, doggo? So, hey, thanks for riding today. Appreciate you. Thank you. Subscribe, like, comment below. Any questions, suggestions on topics or whatnot, like I always say. And I'll try to bring y'all some more content. Hopefully keep it going. I don't want to stay boring, so I want to have, you know, at least 1 or 2 topics for when I ride, and so we can cover. But anyways, thank you very much for support.